Hello there. Welcome to U.S. History B Virtual Interactive Notebook 5. What are we doing? Nixon to Clinton. That's what we're doing. Yesterday we did Vietnam. We just blazed right through that, didn't we? So today we're going to do Watergate. This is day 2 of VINB 5. Your essential question today: how did Watergate bring down Nixon's presidency? The main idea is Watergate. The subtopics are imperial presidency, Watergate, and was he that bad? So if you have parents that are in the room and they're Democrats, their heads probably just exploded. I'm not trying to be, controversial here, but the fact is, if you look at what Nixon actually did besides Watergate, looks a lot like a Democrat. I know. But those are the facts. You'll see what I mean. I'm not kidding. Okay, here we go. I'm going to tell you right now, Mr. Putnam does not like it when I say that. He does not like it at all. And if you want a very intelligent view on Richard Nixon from a very Democratic point of view, you talk to Mr. Putnam and you'll enjoy it. He's a good guy. All right? I happen to disagree with him, but sometimes in the hallway, but there we are. It's like he has an allergic reaction, like he gets hives. He's a good man. I like him very much. Here we go. Okay, today's lesson. Okay. The first thing we're going to talk about is imperial presidency. Now, Nixon's lawyers and advisors, and Nixon himself, really did think that they were set above everyone else in the country. And they really did think that if the president says that something is legal, it's legal. And his critics have called his presidency the imperial presidency because arguably Nixon saw himself sort of as an elected emperor. Right? This is supported by by research. Constitutional scholars, some constitutional scholars who are, I think you could say, far right, will forward the argument that if the president says that a thing should be done, that is the law, right? And that's certainly not my reading of the Constitution, but the statement I'm saying is supported by evidence. I don't have time to go into it now. I was surprised when I read that. I looked into it, and that is the view that Nixon had. Now this is going to have consequences. So, imperial presidency. Nixon believes that the president can't do an illegal thing. It's not possible for the president to do something illegally. Right? And I really don't think that's overstated. Write that down under imperial presidency. Now that takes us to Watergate. So in the 1972 re-election campaign, Nixon, this is true. What I'm going to say is true. It sounds ridiculous, but it is true. President Nixon had his own espionage organization. These are private spies. They had nothing to do with the government. He paid them illegally out of campaign funds. Yeah, he did. And he called them the plumbers. Why would he call them the plumbers? Well, when the White House wanted to talk about their private spy organization doing shady things, they didn't want to say, hey, right out in an office, hey, where's that private spy organization that we illegally maintain with campaign contributions? No, they gave him a code name. So they talked about the plumbers. There were a lot of leaky pipes in the White House. So someone would say, hey, I need to talk to you about the plumbers. Oh, well, you can't go to jail for talking about plumbers, right? So it's a code name. The head of the plumbers was G. Gordon Liddy. And the plumbers, a number of the members were ex-Cuban, what'd you call them, freedom fighters? They're people who the Bay of Pigs hadn't worked out for, right? They're very anti-communist. So G. Gordon Liddy hates the Democratic Party, hates them. Look into G. Gordon Liddy's views on anything. This is my favorite lesson. In all of U.S. History B, this is my favorite lesson. It's because it's so wacky. And I don't have the time to tell you just how wacky it is. But if you want a real experience, just start looking up G. Gordon Liddy. He actually went to jail for this thing, and then he became a conservative talk show host. And that guy, just enthusiastic psychopath, really, and hates Democrats, absolutely despises them. So G. Gordon Liddy headed this thing up, and he got it into his head to bug the Democratic National Committee for the 1972 re-election campaign. So he sent the plumbers into their headquarters. Now, their headquarters happened to be in the Watergate Hotel in Washington, D.C. So he sends these guys in there. Security guards found them and detained them, and they were arrested. The whole thing blows up. Now, did Nixon order Liddy to send people into the Watergate Hotel? Well, Nixon says no. He certainly covered it up, but there's no evidence that he ordered this. Now, interestingly, Nixon recorded most of the conversations he ever had in the Oval Office. You can look up the Nixon tapes. He really liked to swear. But I think a couple hundred of them went missing right after this. That's strange. So we'll never know. Liddy went to jail for this, and he did not squeal. He did all that time, right? Okay. Well, how to say this? Okay. The second in command of the FBI did not like that Nixon was going to get away with this. He thought that would be a miscarriage of justice. So he leaked information to two reporters, Woodward and Bernstein. He had a code name that's not very savory, and I'm not going to mention here, but it's a big part of the story. He leaked information to these two reporters. They started running reports on the Watergate incident, and the country found out that Richard Nixon was trying to cover this thing up, and he definitely was involved. They were his spies, his illegal spies. The result of this is Nixon will resign from the presidency before he's impeached. And after he resigns, his vice president, Gerald Ford, became president. They didn't like each other. Gerald Ford was an honest man. Nixon was not. Gerald Ford then pardoned Richard Nixon. Now, did he pardon Richard Nixon because he was corrupt? Most historians say no. Most historians say that he pardoned Richard Nixon so that we could move on. And Gerald Ford will pay a price for that. So when he runs for the presidency in 1976, the Democrat who challenges him, Jimmy Carter, will beat him soundly, absolutely soundly, because Ford was wrapped up in this Nixon thing. So there you go. Now, was he that bad? I want you to watch this video, which I think is actually pretty well presented. It's pretty even. That tells us what Nixon did besides Watergate. And you might be surprised. Does this look like a Republican president? Right? He did a lot of things, especially for the environment. Okay, so under was he that bad, I want you to write down Nixon's accomplishments. And people seem pretty happy with his accomplishments. It's something to think about. So there you go. That was Watergate. See you tomorrow for day 3.